My name is Jennifer Jones, and I'm the new library director here. I just started in August of last year, so the pandemic has been an interesting way to start in Mattapoisett. But I was excited when Derek approached me about doing a program tonight, so I was thrilled that we could offer him the spot. We've been doing a series called the Local Author Spotlight. And so tonight, Derek's going to talk about his book, The Moonlight King, which I know we had copies of, generously donated several years ago, I think now, from him. And he brought us some newly published copies, so we're excited to give him a chance to speak about that tonight. And just wanted to say that he has copies for sale. And we also have a Zoom component tonight, so you'll see a lot of technology in the middle of the room. That's for me doing the program online as well. So if the Zoom participants would be sure to mute their microphones right now so that we can hear Derek speaking, I would appreciate that. And we'll have questions at the end, and I'll be sure that the Zoom participants can also chime in. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Derek.
Thank you.
DeCosta.
Thank you. All right. So before I begin my presentation, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to take some snacks in the back and water. My wife had worked for 20 hours making those snacks, so if you could partake in that, that'd be great. We're going to start with a short video synopsis of the book.
Derek DeCosta was formerly known as Yoon Sang-kyun. The Moonlight King is a true story, an inspirational memoir about his search for meaning throughout his roller coaster life. It is about his privileged childhood of innocence and happiness being put to the ultimate test after he is wrongfully imprisoned at the age of 6. Derek will survive almost 8 years of torture until his sudden escape at age 14. Then, throughout several decades afterwards, he will evolve past his negative conditioning by re-brainwashing himself with positive rituals, books, and mentors to find the real purpose for his existence. Derek's identity has shifted from a prince to a prey, to survivor, to a soldier, and finally to a motivator and teacher. He now cultivates this empowering new identity as a health and wellness coach by helping others find their own freedoms within themselves. Derek has been featured on network television, radio, and newspaper for his expertise. He is currently running his own local cable fitness show and conducting radio, newspaper, and web interviews for the Moonlight King. Derek believes that his new identity is the sum of all the wise men and women he has met, the true heroes of his life. He is a reflection of pivotal moments with each mentor as they taught him the valuable lessons in becoming the king of his own destiny. With these gifts of wisdom from them, as well as his voracious appetite for knowledge, Derek has counseled and motivated thousands of students to a better emotional, spiritual, and physical freedom in our own lives. For more information, contact Derek at moonlightking.com.
All right. Okay, so that's a short synopsis for those of you who don't know me, who have maybe not had a chance to read the book. I'm here today to talk about why I wrote the book and what I want the outcome to be. Right in here. Hey guys, come on in. Yeah. You just missed the dance. Yeah. Okay. So, by a raise of hands, who has read the book? Be honest. Okay, great, perfect. So, in a nutshell, this book encompasses a story about a young kid, came here, adopted, abusive situation, ran away, tried to figure himself out through the American process, joined the military. I'm giving you a real quick briefing here. And basically, through many decades, I learned that the reason why I was suffering as an adult was not because of the people who adopted me or the abuse that I suffered. It's because I kept continuing the abuse by being a volunteer victim and keeping that fear in my heart by repeating it in my mind again and again and again. So one of my philosophies that I use now is that you become, the input to your eyes and ears is the outcome of your life. meaning that if you change the books that you read, the videos that you watch, the audios that you listen to, the people that you hang out with, I'm a firm believer that you become what and who you surround yourself with. And so if you hang out with positive people doing positive things and have a ritual that you condition over and over again, that becomes your truth. And so today I'm here to discuss some ideas that I have at the end of the book, inputted on what I did specifically. In particular, I would say books are the key to success. If you want to become better, happier, more successful in life, you have to read books to change your philosophy, change your consciousness, and change how you perceive the world. And for me, when I expanded my vocabulary by reading, I would say at this point about 1,000 books on the subject of personal development, psychology, communication, and how to become more free in your life, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, that has helped me raise my consciousness to see the world in a better way. A good way, because there's so much goodness in this world. Right now, at this point in history, in America and in other parts of the world, it's not so great. But what we can do is we can find a way to create harmony in your homes, love, connection. Find a way to create a change in your YOU universe. And the only way to do that is to change your perception. And in my opinion, the only way to do that is to change your vocabulary on how you speak to yourself. One of the things that I feel is not taught that should be is communication, psychology, and rapport skills in all school systems. I think the main thing that we do all day long is we have conversations with ourselves, and they say we have 67,000 thoughts a day, right? But fortunately, we only focus on about 100 of them. Driving the kids to school, going to work, going to the grocery store, and so on and so forth. So we have this Google search engine in your mind called the reticular activating system. And basically, whatever you put as a priority, that's what you find throughout the day. This is like when you buy a brand new car and you bought a brand new Porsche, as Jack did. He sees Porsches everywhere, right? So all of a sudden, you see this car that never existed, or you see the store that you were always looking for. So the same is true in people, places, and things. I believe in the law of vibration and attraction, meaning that you get in life what you are, not what you want. So if you want more in your life, happiness, joy, and freedom, then you have to become more happy, joy, and free. And the only way to do that is to get rid of the things that are possessing you with fear, limitations, and stress from past experiences. What I've experienced and what I want to translate to young kids and adults alike is that your happiness is your responsibility. Your freedom is your responsibility. Your abundance is your responsibility. But the abundance and happiness and freedom is unlimited. There's no limit to it. And what I realized in my life when I was younger and suffering all the time in crisis and fighting or breaking up or moving, there's always something going on because my paradigm and my mantra was, I'm a survivor, I'm a fighter. Well, I was always surviving and fighting. Now, my mantra is, I have passion, abundance, and freedom, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and I want connections with as many people as possible in the same frequency, the same kind of feeling, the same kind of mindset. And half this room are friends or teammates of mine, which is the next subject, is I believe that you cannot pick your DNA family, as far as I know. But what you can do is pick your teammates. You can recruit people that you meet throughout the day. You can recruit people that you don't even know, that you've never met. And so by bringing people into your life as mentors, as teammates, by asking them straight out, do you want to be my teammate? I have 5 teammates that I'm looking at in front of me. That gives you permission to encourage them, have them encourage you, support them, and vice versa. And the way I look at it is, your life becomes a direct reflection of the people that you hang out with the most, and what you read the most, what you listen to most. So repetition is truth. And so in my life and in my practice, I try to create an environment where we have the highest level of positive emotions, and we have communication about things that we can actually make a difference in. So I have a rule at the gym, we don't talk about politics or the news, anything like that, right? We only talk about things that excite you, that make you happy, that make you feel like you have control over your life. And so today I'm going to read an excerpt from one of the chapters to begin with and how it ends. The good news is when you read the book, there's a happy ending. So as you go through the initial part of the book, for those of you who have read it, it can be challenging in the beginning parts, but at the end, it's a happy ending, so don't worry. So just go on through it. Hey guys. So let me grab a book. I'm going to read an excerpt from this is the end of chapter 2. So this is the point in the book where I'm at the orphanage. Not at the orphanage. I'm going to the orphanage, and my family doesn't understand this. So if you didn't read the book, the premise is in 1977 Korea, divorce wasn't common. In fact, you don't get divorced in Korea. So as a result of that, my parents decided to hide the evidence of the divorce, which was my sister and I. So we were going to be sent to an orphanage. So my group of adoptees were the first generation to come to America. As a result of that, there was no background checks. There were no Corey checks. There was no waiting period. You paid the money, you got the kid. So there was a lot of single dads that got little girls, situations like this. So it wasn't good. But as a result of my generation of kids being adopted, Korea now has one of the most stringent adoption rules in the world. It takes a long time, you have to have two parents, and so on and so forth. So a lot of good came out of it. But this is describing the moment that I realized that we were going to an orphanage, and my aunt and uncle did as well. So it is a week since the lunch visit from my mother. A normal week of school and play, errands and more play, except that my aunt seems sad at times. Now she is starting to cry a little, as my uncle carefully and slowly packs our meager belongings onto the bicycle that has been our taxi to school and market for so many days, until this one. Today the bike is to become a moving van. He secures the load and he then turns toward my sister and me. My aunt is now crying uncontrollably, filling her deep sunburned cheeks from the months of working the cabbage fields with glistening tears. Even my uncle is crying, softly though. His stone-like features have never expressed any emotion, let alone sadness and tears. His eyes soften as he loads my sister and me onto the bicycle. I don't understand this emotional display. Why are they crying that we are going? Is this fun park called America so far away? Are we to be gone so long that we have to take everything we own? I look to my aunt to ask this, but stop. She is sobbing, wailing, hands to face. Something is very wrong. From the depth of her sadness, I know that my life from this moment forward will never be the same. As he rides us into town, my uncle lets me embrace his steely torso. I can feel his breathing and his heart race. I do not know that this will be the last time I will ever hold anyone in my family again. I am 6 years old. So that's chapter 2. But as I said, there's a happy ending. Okay. So the premise, when I wrote this initially, the story was that my student that I had, the only Asian student that I've had in 25 years, I had written a workout manual and produced some videos, and she wanted to sell these videos and sell this book in Korea. But she said, no one's going to buy this from Derek DeCosta, so we have to sell it as Yoon Sang-kyun, your Korean name. I said, sure, that's fine. So she said, write a little blurb about why you have that name, and then we'll sell it. So I went home, and I went to write a 2-sentence blurb about that subject, and that turned into 3 weeks of nonstop, this is when we had typewriters, to nonstop typing, right, or keyboard anyway. And I was up all night, up all day. Every chance I had, I was just writing. And it was the best thing in my whole life that ever happened to me. Just getting rid of these demons coming out of me week after week was amazing. A lot of crying, a lot of moments where hard to breathe. But in my opinion, one of the best things that you can do as a human being, as an adult, is to purge out the things that don't belong in your heart to create the space for what does belong, which is love. So you can only have one, in my opinion. When we teach exercise to my students, I say you can only have circulation or inflammation. You can only have health or disease, or hydration or dehydration. Well, in your heart, if you will, you can only have love or fear. So whatever remains that is fearful, that's residing there because of something in the past trauma, when you were a unconscious or unwilling victim, does not need to be kept alive with your thoughts or your feelings. Because the people who violated you, hurt you, or abused you have long gone away and have forgotten about you for a very long time. When I wrote this book and initially tried to publish it, the people, the characters in the book that were the abusers were still very much alive. As far as what they were doing, I don't know. But one of the things that I realized as I grew up and was into bodybuilding and martial arts, joined the army, all those things were an attempt to build my body stronger to defend myself so this would never happen again. And if I was ever to see my abusers, I was going to get revenge, that kind of a thing. But the reality is that never happened. And I'm glad it didn't happen. Because the ideal way and the only way to move forward in life is through forgiveness. Because the person or persons that abused me clearly, definitely were abused themselves. And the cycle continued with them, but it has to stop with me. And so when you see these people as victims and not predators, it puts a different light in how you address that person as a lost soul, as someone that needs love. And so I always say every child is born with love. No racist babies, by the way. Everybody comes out happy, right? We are taught to fear and to hate and to criticize or to be insecure and push people away. But we can also teach ourselves to pull people in, create the space for them to come in. But we have to be courageous enough and confident enough to attack the demon that's within you. And what I realize is that when you open that closet door, it's not Godzilla. It's the little gecko from Geico. It's not that big, right? And so it's an easy thing to do if you know that it's going to take some work and repetition. And like anything else, when you build muscles, like Paul knows, you got to work out every day, right? If you want to get stronger emotionally and spiritually, you have to work that out every day. The meditation, the incantations, the mantras. What you repeat every single day through your rituals is who you will become in the near future. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't take any chances. I don't put the news on. I used to. My spiritual sister 25 years ago said, you should stop watching TV. And I'm like, how can I stop watching TV? How am I going to know what's going on? And I have to watch TV for entertainment. Everybody watches it. We talk about it at the gym. That's what we do, right? So she said, you got to stop watching that. It's not good for you. Well, 10 years ago, I stopped watching. And it was like breaking up with a psychotic girlfriend. It was really difficult. She wouldn't leave me alone. But eventually I did, and my life has been so much better as a result, because now I'm in charge of my programming. There's no accidental, negative, narcissistic information coming in. I control what I input to my eyes and ears. And so I choose every morning a video, audio, or a chapter from a book that I know is going to feed my soul. So in my opinion, even though I teach as a business food for the body, what really matters is food for your mind and your heart. So how you speak to yourself internally and how you speak to those externally is the key to your life. And the way to improve that is by reading books and communicating with people that have achieved the level of success that you want in family, in finance, in fitness. There are many people that I'm looking at right now that I consider my mentors, my role models in life. Whether they're younger or older than me, it makes no difference. And when you have a collection of people that you can look up to for guidance, you can call, or you can just say, what would Jack do? What would Gary do? And then I do that. If I feel like you're that kind of person, that caliber person. And so very few people are willing to leave their flock because that flock represents social proof, love, and connection. But sometimes you have to realize you're an eagle hanging out with pigeons. You're in the wrong group. You can't fake it. Everybody knows you're not a pigeon. So you have to spread your wings and have the confidence and courage to do that, that your destiny, your purpose in life is to spread whatever gift that you possess, whether that's singing, dancing, creating something, whether it's speaking, whatever it may be, whether you're a doctor, an engineer, a mechanic, whatever your gift is that you love, you need to give that to other people with as much passion and purpose as you can. And have that as your driving force in life. And use that to give permission to other people to wake up and put their lights on and live their truth. If everybody was living their truth, wouldn't this be a better place, this world? There'd be more happy people getting up in the morning with a purpose and a passion, feeling like their life has meaning. Because the two most important days, the day that you're born and the day that you figure out why you're born. For me, the day that I figured out why I was born, it took a while. I was probably in my early 30s, I think, really. In fact, to be specific, for those of you who read the book, it was the day that my best friend, Gino, fell off a building and became a quadriplegic, became paralyzed. That morning changed everything for me. Because until that moment, we gave each other permission to be Peter Pans and go night clubbing, look for girls, and work out and have this ridiculous life as 30-something-year-old guys. But when he was recreated, I had to recreate myself. And we have a process I think all people do where you're reborn at certain points in your life. You know, there's a joke, they make second grade seats small for a reason, so you don't fit into it when you're in high school, right? And so it's true with life, right? We have these identities as children, as teenagers, as young adults, in college, when you get married, when you first buy a house, when you have your first kid, when you start your first business. We have these identities, but that's not who we are. That's what we do. Who we are is the core emotion that you make all your decisions by. So in my system, we have a body, mind, spirit system, and that's called wellness. Well, I disagree with that a little bit. I think it should be spirit, mind, body. Your heart makes all of your choices for you. That's your intuition. That's your internal tutor. It tells your mind, hey, is this a good decision? The mind goes, let me check my folders. And that's based on all the books and videos and audios that you've listened to and read. It says, good choice. Body, now behave. Then the body takes the action and represents it. So if you see it that way, when you have your heart or your gut telling you, talk to that girl or talk to that guy or take that job or buy that house or start that business, and your mind validates it, you've got to take the action. Because that's your true purpose, whatever that may be. So I believe that if we follow our hearts in communication, and we create a system where all of us are having positive expectations, I believe in something called the 100th monkey effect. That every species shares a consciousness. And there's an actual scientific experiment that was done on a chain of islands where these scientists went and taught one species of monkeys how to wash this poisonous resin off these coconuts so they could eat it without getting poisoned. What they found is that once they taught 100 of these monkeys, all 10,000 monkeys on all 5 islands knew this skill instantly. Meaning that they share an iCloud of consciousness. We call it the Akashic Records. Someone can fact check me on that if you want. What that means is when you're sitting there and you go, how can I solve this problem? How can I solve this problem? This is before YouTube, by the way. You go, how can I solve this problem? And all of a sudden, light bulb, you go, where did I get that thought from? The iCloud of humanity. Why is this important? Because each and every one of you, I don't know which one, could be the 100th monkey, the 100th human, if you will, that creates a tipping point where we all shift our consciousness into co-creation instead of competition. Collaborating about how we can unify as a human race versus a nationality or a language or a color or a gender or whatever the thing is now, the question mark, right? So it really is about going back to the root of who we are, humans. Hue meaning many colors of the man or woman, many emotions of the man or woman. So when we give each other permission to connect with honesty and respect, and have conversations where you do something more than say, hey, what's your name and what do you do for a job? Wouldn't that be amazing? And I have a game that I play, what if? What if we had a world where we saw each other for more than our occupation? What if we had a time in life where we didn't judge each other by the language that you spoke or the color of your skin or what country or zip code you came from? And what if we were able to raise our children in an environment where they could do what they love to do and pursue their passion and not their paycheck? What if? And what if we start that by changing our homes, our streets, our communities? Bishop Desmond Tutu once said that if you want to change the world, you have to change your world. Because in reality, you can't change the whole world. But if we are a drop in the ocean, and we are, each one of you, yes, we are one drop, but we make the ocean. If you keep your drop pure and filled with love, it will ripple into the rest of the ocean. And that's what you're in charge of, your YOU universe. And I'm sure most of you are already doing this, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I believe in synchronicity, that people are attracted to the same vibration and frequency. But at the same time, I also believe that people are looking for permission slips. There's a saying I once heard that says, most people want to be first to be second. Meaning that if you've ever been to a movie theater and someone, within seconds, what happens? Coughing everywhere, right? It's contagious. But so is love, so is passion, so is excitement, so is understanding, so is forgiveness. If we have that as the common repetition in our languages, in our conversations, at our dining room tables, at our parties, someday hopefully on our mainstream media, in the movies and so on and so forth, then that becomes a social norm, to be considerate, to be kind, versus competitive. What are you up to? What do you want from me? Right? Because we have both worlds at all times. We have the yin to the yang, left to the right, up to the down. There's always polarity. But I visualize a world that's more goodness, very little evil. We need a little evil just to know that we're doing good things, right? We keep that person far away from us. So I have a chapter on how to deal with toxic people. And I believe that the metaphor of the scorpion and the frog comes into play. And I'm sure you've heard this before. And the scorpion and the frog is, the scorpion asks the frog to get a ride on his back across the river, but the frog says, no, you'll sting me and I'll die. And the scorpion says, why would I sting you? We'll both die. The frog says, okay, get on my back. Halfway across the river, guess what? Stings the frog. They're both dying. The frog says, why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die. And he says, hey, stupid, I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. I sting frogs. So once I got that metaphor into my life, I got rid of the scorpions in my life. Now I don't get stung as much. I trip and fall, but I don't get stung, which is much better. So I think that's an important factor to understand what tribe that you want to be a part of and what you want to co-create. And then make a conscious effort on collecting these kinds of people into your life to give you the social proof and give you the permission to become better and better and better. And I'll end it with one last statement. I live my life by one simple philosophy. It's called Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese word. It means 1% improvement in every facet of your life. Intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, every single day. If you do that, then you are 365% better by the end of a year, theoretically. This is the samurai code of living. Here's the irony of this word, because the Japanese use it, and that's why they kick ass in automotives and technology. But guess what? Who taught them this word? An American guy. He went there after World War II and taught them the Kaizen philosophy on how to improve their business. So an American taught the Japanese how to kick America's ass in business. But we can adopt it back. So Kaizen is a philosophy that works for anybody because you can improve by 1%. If someone's doing push-ups and I say do one more, they can do that. If I say 100 more, that's impossible. When we chunk it down to a manageable number or a manageable effort, everyone can participate. It's not about winning or losing, it's about improving. Anybody surf here? Let's pretend. You, yeah. Okay. When you're surfing, the idea of surfing is not the surfboard you have or the wetsuit you have. Just understanding the waves never stop. You got to get better at handling the waves. Whether you go underneath them, over them, around them, but they're not going to stop. And that's called life. So in my system, I have a philosophy called the wheel of happiness or wheel of wellness. And that is we have the 5 fingers of fitness on the outside: cardio, strength, flexibility, core, agility. You don't have to remember this. Inside is going to be hydration, nutrition, oxygenation, meditation, and education. And that creates the wheel. This is the important part. The center of the wheel are the spokes that hold it up. The 3 things that hold it up: medias, mentors, and teammates. So mentors are the people you look up to within your family, your community, a sports hero, an author, a motivational speaker, personal trainer, anybody that you think is worth admiring. Also, you have teammates, your family, your friends, your community, people you work with. Medias, this is the key. Books, videos, audios, whatever you learn best with. When I meet some kids and I'm working with them, I realize after a few minutes, oh, this kid learns better with audios versus videos or reading. They're not stupid, they just learn differently. So figure out what it is that you learn the best with and then devour that and consume that. Here's why medias are important. Let's say I call a friend and go, hey buddy, I need some help with such and such. I can't today, I'm busy with my kid or my wife or my job, or I just don't want to do it. People let you down. It happens. Sometimes we let other people down, but books never do. We just happen to be in a library, which is not a coincidence, because the reason why I succeeded, if I did, was because of the day that I accidentally was at a yard sale with the abusive person. And I didn't steal it. I bought this book for 5 cents, but she didn't see me do it. And the book was The Count of Monte Cristo, just so you know. My favorite book still to this day. The book is prophetic because the book talks about a man that was unjustly imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. And during the 13 years of imprisonment, he met a mentor, a priest, who taught him how to read and write and all the things in life he should know as a gentleman. And so finally he escapes the prison. The priest gives him a map of Monte Cristo where this golden treasure is hidden. He finds the golden treasure. Now he becomes an actual count. He wants to exact his revenge on the people who locked him up and the woman who betrayed him. Guess what happens? He doesn't do that. He finds out through the education that he had that now he has sympathy for the people who did this to him. At the end of the book, he finds freedom within himself by forgiving the people who actually abused him and locked him up. He gets the girl, by the way, end of the book, okay? Which is always a good ending. So that book led me to other books like Oliver Twist, White Fang, and so on and so forth. And countless books like that gave me permission in my mind as a child that was locked up literally in a place I couldn't escape from or communicate to anybody with. That gave me an imagination here saying, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. And so I say to you that you live your life. And you may think people are not watching you, but they are. You are mentors to a lot of people. Whether they're children, adults, your neighbors, your community, your example is very powerful. So every day when you get up, you want to live every juice, every drop of life that you can. Never waste a moment to create a memory. And so on with this. If you think the purpose of life is to get money, let me just give you the metaphor of money. Someone once told me that money is like manure. If you spread it around, everybody grows. If you pile it up in one place, it stinks. So it is really there to help you create memories with the loved ones, your family, your friends, your teammates, your community, and spread the message of why you were here. What is the destiny and your purpose? What is the gift you're here to leave behind? Because at the end of the day, no one's going to remember your name 1,000 years from now. And who cares? I don't care. Or my face, or this book, or anything. What I care about is when I cross that line, if there is a pearly gate or such a thing, I want to be able to say that I did the very best I could in helping myself and those around me. And I did not back down from a challenge. If it just took some elbow grease and turning a few pages, that's what you got to do. So my message to you is that I wish each and every one of you blessings in your health, your happiness, the love in your life, and the peace in your heart. And I wish and pray that in a day very soon that we all unite once again as Earth humans and as Americans. So God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America. Thank you very much.